Hello students, welcome to Shri classes. In this lecture we will see the question answers of textbook, in-text and out-text questions. The color of the questions that is given in your textbook, it is not clearly visible, a light blue color, and therefore I am directly going to the solutions part where we will rush through the questions very quickly, okay? That is much preferable. Otherwise it is difficult for you to see the questions also. So my suggestion would be you hold a textbook also in front of you while going through the question answers. I think that makes sense, isn't it? Yeah. What is the difference between, let's rush through very quickly. We'll try to finish as quickly as possible. I hope the visibility is clear for you. Probably at some places it is dull, but देखिए आप whether you can understand or not. Okay. What is the difference between a reflex action and walking? Here it is this is what you can see, reflex action and walking. Reflex action, spontaneous, involuntary and sudden response to a stimulus. Walking is a voluntary response. Reflex action is involuntary response, sudden, spontaneous, involuntary response, whereas walking is a voluntary response. Next, it is regulated by or controlled by, reflex action is controlled by spinal cord, walking is controlled and coordinated by brain. Also, reflex action, intensity cannot be changed, it is fixed. The intensity means the rate at which the response is shown. Intensity cannot be changed, but walking intensity you can definitely increase the rate of walking at our will. So intensity can be changed. So it increases the survival and protective values of an organism. It is concerned with locomotion. Last point, rather than this last point, you can add something like this is unconscious activity, whereas walking is a conscious activity instead of last point. Okay, that's the only. Next. What happens at the synapse between two neurons? I hope you are able to see this clearly, isn't it? All these letters and all should be visible for you. I think so, it should be visible. What happens at the synapse between two neurons? Synapse is a junction between two neurons. At the synapse, the electrical signal sets off the release of a chemical which moves from nerve ending of one cell to the dendritic tip of the other cell, and it initiates once again the electrical impulse, and that is carried forward. So synapse is a junction between which this small chemical molecules which are triggered by the electrical impulse in one neuron, that is one nerve ending, is passed to the next dendritic tip. So I can say this chemical molecule or the chemical, this acts like a neurotransmitter. It acts like a neurotransmitter, isn't it? So it is a small gap between the two neurons. An electrical impulse sets off the release of some chemicals at the synapse, and those chemicals will move on to the next dendrite and sets off once again the electrical impulse. So thus at synapse, the chemical acts like a neurotransmitter, and synapse helps in transmission of signal from one cell, one neuron to another neuron. Next, which part of the brain maintains posture and equilibrium of the body? Very important. Cerebellum, which is a part of the hindbrain, is responsible for maintaining posture and body balance. In 2016, the same question was asked something like this. Mention the part of the brain which maintains a posture and equilibrium of a body. So cerebellum is a part of the hindbrain that maintains posture and equilibrium of the body. Next, how do you detect the smell of an agarbatti? You can say in simple words, smell reaches the receptors which are olfactory receptors present in the nose, and they convert the information of smell into a nerve impulse which gets transmitted to the brain via sensory neurons, and it reaches the sensory region of the forebrain, and forebrain interprets the smell of a particular object. Here in case of agarbatti, you can say that way. Next, what is the, how do we, okay, next one. What is the role of the brain in reflex action? Brain does not play any role in the reflex action. Only the spinal cord comes into picture, and spinal cord is the main control center for reflex actions. Sixth one. What are plant hormones? Plant hormones are chemical substances that are responsible for growth and development, and thereby control and coordination of plants, or control and coordination in plants, you can say. Next, how is the movement of the leaves? How is the movement of the leaves in sensitive plant different from the movement of a shoot towards light? How it is different means, what is the distinction between the movement of leaves of a sensitive plant and the movement of shoot towards the light is a question, and the answers are listed as here. Movement of leaves in a sensitive plant and movement of shoot here. Movement of leaves, this movement is independent of growth. Yes, it is a nastic movement, whereas this is a tropic movement which is governed by the growth. This is stimulus, here it is a touch, and stimulus here is a light. Movement is not directional. In case of sensitive plants, it is not a directional movement, whereas movement of the shoot is a directional. And movement is neither away nor towards the stimulus, movement is towards the stimulus here in this case. So these are the points of differences between the movement of leaves in sensitive plant and movement of shoot towards the light. One more information is to be added to this these points. The movement of the leaves, the signal is transmitted in case of the leaves, the signal is transmitted in the form of, or what do you say for that? Information is transferred in the form of electrochemical signal. Here, information is transmitted by hormones. That is one important difference also. Here, the information of touch is transmitted to different cells of the plant by means of electrical as well as chemical means, electrochemical means. Whereas here, the information is transmitted by means of the hormones, which are phytohormones. I hope this is very clear for you. Next is, give an example of a plant hormone that promotes growth. Auxin. Please remember, auxin is present in the growing tips of the shoots and tips of the roots, and that is responsible for growth. How do auxins, next question, how do auxins promote the growth of a tendril around the support? See, whenever these tendrils come across a support, then auxin diffuses to the opposite side of the support and elongates the cell on that stem region, and therefore the stem tries to cling to, or the stem tries to surround the support, because if it is coming in contact with, if it comes in contact with the support, the auxin that is present at the contact region will get diffused to the opposite region. So opposite region, opposite side of the stem, the cells of that stem elongate and makes the tendril to take a turn around the support. That is the answer for this. Design an experiment to demonstrate hydrotropism. See, many, let me check whether this is an activity given in your book, okay, to demonstrate hydrotropism. Just a moment. You can have a look at this book also, hydrotropism. This is for phototropism. I hope you are seeing this is for phototropism, and an activity to no, not given. Yes, I couldn't find the activity to demonstrate the hydrotropism. So it is preferable to look at this and make a note also. Very interesting. Here, this is what is this? Just a moment. What is that? Has he given? This is a big container, I'll say. This is a big container. Fill that big container with sand and take one small pot with holes on the sides of the walls. That is a porous pot. And embed this porous pot into the sand. Fill up water here, isn't it? Through the pores present on the walls, the water seeps into the sand. That's how it is, isn't it? Very slowly. Now you take a germinating seeds. Germinating seeds is called a seedling. Seed is different, a seedling is different. Now which germinates after the germination of the seed, we call that as a seedling. Embed a seedling at a different point over here, away from this porous pot. After a few days, you can very clearly observe the roots in search of the water moves towards the stimulus called water here. And therefore we can say growth of roots towards the stimulus water is positive hydrotropism, or simply you can say hydrotropism is shown by the roots here in the direction of the stimulus, which is water. So this is an activity that you can demonstrate the hydrotropism activity. Clear? This is what it is. Next. This slide is slightly, I hope you can see now. Yeah, it's visible. Probably it's visible. Not very clear, but I can read it for you. How does a chemical coordination take place in animals? A couple of points are important. How does a chemical coordination takes place in the animals is the question. See, chemical coordination is performed by hormones, which are chemical messengers secreted by endocrine glands. So chemical coordination is achieved by hormones secreted by the endocrine glands in the animals. That is one thing. Next, these hormones control and coordinate the growth of the organs and organ systems in the body, and that is also by a feedback mechanism. So one important point, what is that is the exact timing and the exact quantity of the hormones to be released is controlled by a feedback mechanism. You got it? And these are the 3 points you have to write. How does chemical coordination takes place, which is a second way of communication or a second way of control and coordination. What is the first point? Control and coordination is achieved by hormones, which are chemical messengers. Second point, hormones are responsible for growth and development and thus control, or you can say hormones control and coordinate the growth and development of the organs and organ systems. And the timing and exact timing and the exact quantity, or the timing and quantity of the hormones secreted is controlled by a feedback mechanism. How this is controlled by feedback mechanism? One textbook example I would like to take it here. For example, a person, for example, if the body sugar level goes up high, in that case, the cells of the pancreas will be able to detect the sugar, excess sugar content, and therefore pancreas secretes more insulin, and insulin decreases the blood sugar level. Once the sugar level comes down, then the quantity of the secretion of the insulin once again is reduced. This is how, based on the feedback mechanism, the control and coordination by hormonal system also takes place. So these 3 points are important for this question. Next, why it is advised to use iodized salt in our diet? See here, iodized salt in diet is advisable because it contains iodine. Yes, but why do we require iodine? Iodine is required for the synthesis of thyroxine hormone by thyroid gland. So deficiency of the iodine may result into a disease called goiter, and the symptom of which is the swollen neck. Hence iodine is required in our regular diet. Next, how does our body respond when adrenaline is secreted into blood. This I read a paragraph, I hope you remember, I read it from your textbook. So what changes, so how the body is prepared in order to tackle the emergency situation by means of adrenaline release. So I am going to read that entire paragraph which is written over here. The same thing is there in the textbook, that I would like to read it for you. I hope you know, but still I am it is better to go through that. Human brain, it is hormonal systems, isn't it? Correct, here you can see. I hope you can very clearly see the contents here. So how the body is prepared for an emergency situation, like a scary situation due to secretion of adrenaline. That is the answer given here, which I am reading. Adrenaline is secreted directly into the blood and it is carried to different parts of the body. The target organs of the specific tissue on which it acts include the heart. As a result, the heartbeats becomes faster. First point, heartbeat becomes faster because the target organ for the adrenaline hormone is heart. Next, as a result, the heart beats faster, and because of the increase in heartbeat, supply of more oxygen to our muscles take place. Correct, no? Because of the heartbeat increase, supply of oxygen to muscles takes place. More supply of oxygen to muscles take place. That's one thing. The blood to the digestive system and the skin is reduced by contraction of the muscles around the arteries. That is one thing. This diverts the blood to our muscles, skeletal muscles, for taking suitable actions. Because skeletal muscles need to be very powerful, no? So mitochondria has to generate a lot of energy there. So oxygen content is required is more there. Oxygen requirement is more in skeletal muscles, and therefore the blood quantity is also increased to the skeletal muscles by decreasing the blood quantity to the skin and the digestive system by contraction of the muscles in and around the arteries, which are the blood vessels. Okay, so that is one thing. And the breathing rate also increases. This diverts the blood to our skeletal muscles. The breathing rate also increases because of the contractions of the diaphragm and the rib muscles. Important, the breathing rate increases. All these responses together enable an animal body to be ready to deal with the emergency situation. So these are the changes that we can expect in a body when adrenaline hormone is released in order to prepare the body to handle with emergency situation, like a scary situation. Okay, fine. I hope that is quite clear for you. Thirteenth over. Why are some patients of diabetes treated by giving injections of insulin? In diabetic patients, the secretion of the insulin decreases, and the blood sugar level, if it increases, then additional insulin is provided to them in the form of injections so that the blood sugar level comes into control. And excess blood sugar level leads to harmful effects, and therefore that is the answer for this question. Here, this one. Which of the following is a plant hormone? Insulin is an animal hormone secreted by pancreas that regulates the blood sugar level. Estrogen, it is the hormone secreted by ovaries, which are responsible for the development of accessory sex organs and also secondary sexual characters. Thyroxine, hormone is secreted by thyroid gland, and that is required for maintaining the carbohydrates, proteins and fats metabolism in the body to provide a good balance. And And one more thing is cytokinin. Cytokinin is a plant hormone. So what is the answer for all this is a cytokinin. The gap between the two neurons is called dendrites, axon, synapse, impulse. Synapse is the gap between the two neurons. That is the answer for this. The brain is responsible for thinking, yes. Balancing the body, yes, of course. Regulating, yes, for controlling also. All above. So all above activities are controlled by the brain. So brain is the main control center of our entire body. What is the function of receptors in our body? Think of a situations where receptors do not work properly and what problems are likely to arise. What is the function of receptors in our body? Receptors sense the information, sense the stimulus, which is a change in environment, and transfers that information or converts that information into nerve impulse, and that will be transmitted to the brain via sensory neurons. And the brain interprets the stimulus or the information, and accordingly suitable decisions are taken by the brain, and instructions are sent via motor neurons to the effectors, which are muscles, and thereby a suitable action for a suitable stimulus is initiated by the brain. Suppose the receptors do not work. In that case, the changes in the environment are not perceived by the body, and body's response becomes very poor for changing environmental conditions, which are nothing but the stimuli. So body responses to the stimuli will decrease, or body will not respond to the external stimulus, and that may lead to the harmful effects on the human beings or the animals, you can say. That may lead to the harmful effects on the organism. That is what you can say that. For example, photoreceptors are present in our eyes. If the photoreceptors are not working, and if the vehicle is coming with a high speed in front of us, there could be a possibility of causing an accident, because the body will not respond to the object. If the photoreceptors are working properly, then the vehicular movement will be sent to the brain, and the brain would be able to perceive that yes, there is a vehicle coming in front, and it would be able to initiate a suitable action by means of as a response to that situation, by means of movement of the body off the vehicle or away from the vehicle. So if photoreceptors are not working in our eyes, then definitely it may lead to accident also. Draw the structure of a neuron and explain its functions. That you can refer to my PPT or even for the textbook for that matter. Okay. How does phototropism occur in our plants? How do phototropism occur in our plants? If you refer to my slides, it is much better. And one important thing I would like to highlight over here, because whatever that day I had explained in my PPT, that the auxin, which is a growth hormone, diffuses to the shady part of the stem, and which causes the cell elongation on the shady region, and thereby it bends towards the light. Okay, that activity is the answer for this. How does phototropism takes place in the plants? And in that activity, you can see here in your textbook. See, I'll show you that activity, and I'll read couple of sentences from that. Here it is. So, response of the plant to the direction of the light here. Okay, this is how it is bending towards us. So, where is the explanation for this bending phenomenon of bending of a stem of the plant towards this light? Where it is explained in your textbook? Just will locate that part. See here how he has explained here. Environmental triggers such as light or gravity will change the directions that the plant parts grow in. These directional or tropic movements can be either towards the stimulus or away from it. So, in two different kinds of phototropic movement, shoots respond by bending towards the light while roots respond by bending away from it. How does this help in the plant? Okay, just a moment where it is given. See here, I searched with the keyword diffuse, in which page number it is given is 122, in page number 122, how the plants respond to or the phototropism is explained here. Just see diffuse is here. Let us take an example that we worked with earlier activity 7.2, which we saw there. When growing plants detect light, a hormone called auxin synthesized at the shoot tip helps the cell to grow longer. When light is coming from one side of the plant, auxin diffuses towards the shady side of the shoot, isn't it? Lighted region and shady region. Auxin diffuses towards the shady side of the shoot. This concentration of the auxin stimulates the cells to grow longer on the side of the shoot which is away from light. Thus the plant appears to bend towards the light. Very good explanation which is given in this one. So this is how you have to explain how the phototropism takes place in the plants. Clear? Yeah, so that question is clear. Which signals will get disrupted in case of spinal cord injury? Spinal cord is the main control center for reflex action. Very important is spinal cord is the main control center for reflex action. In case of spinal cord injury, signals for reflex actions and also involuntary actions will get disrupted. You have to remember or write near that question itself. The signals of reflex actions and the signals of involuntary actions will get affected if the spinal cord injury takes place. Next question, how does the chemical coordination occurs in plants? In plants, chemical coordination is achieved by means of plant hormones which are responsible for growth and development of particular regions of the plants in response to the different stimuli such as light, water, gravitational force of the earth, touch, etc. So the plant hormones are auxins, gibberellins, cytokinin and abscisic acid. Auxin is a growth hormone responsible for cell elongation. Gibberellin helps in the growth of the stem. Cytokinin promotes the cell division and abscisic acid inhibits the growth. So this information also need to be written when we say that the plant hormones are responsible for the growth and development of plant parts as a control and coordination mechanism. Okay, next. Just have a look at this question. What is the need for a system of control and coordination in an organism? The whole chapter we have learned to understand only this itself. Why do we require control and coordination? If I am talking to you, I require control and coordination. If I am driving a vehicle, I require control and coordination. While picking up the articles from the rack, I require control and coordination. Slow cycle requires control and coordination. Entire activity, see, we are the body is developing the movements, or the body movements are controlled by the environmental changes, either for the benefit of the body or to prevent the body, and hence the control and coordination is required. Okay. How are voluntary, involuntary actions and reflex actions are different from each other? Involuntary actions and reflex actions have been listed with respect to these bases, and let us study that. Very important. Involuntary actions and reflex actions system, they involve autonomic nervous system, correct? Whereas reflex actions involve all parts of the voluntary nervous system, and they are not under our control. Reflex actions are not under our control. See, involuntary actions are controlled by autonomic nervous system. You got it? And reflex actions, the somatic nervous system is involved, but it is unconscious activity. That is very important. Next, they involve functioning of the internal body parts. Yeah, and these are concerned with emergency. And divisions, the nervous system controlling involuntary actions are sympathetic and parasympathetic. No such any divisions is there in reflex actions, and they occur in response to the internal stimulus, and they commonly operate, they occur in response to the internal stimuli, and they commonly operate against harmful stimuli which are generally external, or you can say reflex actions occur according to the external stimuli. Occurrence, most of the involuntary functions are involuntary functions occur all the time, whereas reflex actions occur occasionally. Time, sometimes gap occurs between stimulus and response, and these are almost instantaneous. Muscles, they are carried out by smooth muscles, they are performed by striated muscles. Striated muscles are skeletal muscles, cylindrical in shape, multinucleated, attached to the skeleton, and voluntary muscles. Whereas smooth muscles are spindle shaped, uninucleated, present in the internal organs and glands. So, involuntary autonomic nervous system controls these smooth muscles. Next, examples: beating of the heart and peristalsis, whereas closing eyes when light is flashed on them. Some of these, I hope you should be able to write, after reading and going through this chapter so much, probably you should be able to distinguish between the involuntary actions, voluntary actions, and reflex actions also. So think over and try to distinguish between all these three. Okay. Next, compare and contrast nervous hormonal mechanisms for control and coordination in animals. So here we are writing hormonal system and here nervous system. What is the difference we are studying here? Maybe about 4 or 5, if you know, that's quite enough. But let us see here. Hormonal system. Information is carried through chemical messages called hormones. Information is carried in the form of electrical impulses or nerve impulse, you can say, electrochemical impulse. Next, sensory receptors. Receptors are absent in hormonal system, which is also called endocrine system. Receptors are present. Rapidity. Hormonal system is slow and nervous system is faster. Connection. System is not connected to target sites directly, whereas nervous system is connected to, or the organs that are connected to the nervous system are only activated in nervous system. The system is directly connected to the part under its control. The responses are slow here, the responses are faster here. Role, the system controls growth and development, whereas nervous system does not involve any growth and development. Very important. Growth and development. The control and coordination is ensured by growth and development of the body in case of hormonal systems. That also works on the feedback mechanism, whereas there is nothing as such, the growth and development of the body in case of a nervous system. And components, it consists of glands and their secretions. It consists of nervous system. Here it consists of, you can say, endocrine system, and here it is a nervous system. Effects, chemical messengers last for, effects of chemical messengers are longer, whereas effects of nervous system is for a short period of time. These are the some of the things, and also finally it is involuntary and it is voluntary. Most of the time the nervous system controls the voluntary actions. Okay. What is the difference between the manner in which movement takes place in sensitive plant and movement in our legs? Movement in sensitive plant, movement in legs. It occurs in response to external stimulus like touch, and it is a voluntary action, and plant cells change their shape by changing the amount of water in them, and movement of the legs is due to change in shape of the muscle cells. Change in shape of the muscle cells. How do muscles change their shapes? You must know it very clearly. See, muscle cells have special proteins called contractile proteins. The arrangement and the shape, the change in shape and arrangement of the proteins will result into the contraction of the cells and thereby contraction of the muscles, and leads to the movement of the limbs or body parts, you can say. So that is important. No nerves are involved in this one. Here nerves carry the message of movement for the movement of the legs. So couple of differentiations were there. I hope you understand that. Yeah, we have completed all these question answer session of we have completed all in-text questions and exercise questions of this chapter. Let me check if possible. I'll take a few more exemplar questions also. I look into that. If the questions are simpler, then I will leave it to you to go through those things and get back to me for any difficulties. Okay. So let us end this lecture. This chapter is complete in all respects, and see you with a new chapter in my next lecture. Thank you very much.